up? What's going on? David, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. I got the regular laptop speaker, the mic going right now. Is that all right? Sound
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, you sound great, man.
All right, cool.
You got a video or no?
Oh, is it not coming up?
I got you. Yeah, it takes me a
Or,
while. It takes me like 5 minutes to set up my mic and headphones all right.
yeah, I was wondering if I should get my cans on or what. I got most of my like being in front of the camera gear over here, but I like this backdrop better.
I like it, man. It looks cool. Well, welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast.
Thanks.
Yeah, for anybody listening or watching this, you can expect open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development. Sitting here with David. David, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself? Just tell people like who you are and what you're all about, and then we'll just get into a good conversation, man.
All right. Well, my name is Dave. Recovering alcoholic, addict, junkie, um, asshole. um, I've been sober about 2 years now. Just got out of jail about a year ago for my third DUI, but I've been sober longer than that, so I like that. I like that I didn't go into jail drunk and have to get sober in there. But I'm a dad. I run my own coaching program now. I have, semi-retired IT guy. If if something needs to be done and they want to pay me enough to do it, I'll do it. Uh, um, but yeah, man, I'm just a guy, man, that been through a lot of shit and learned a lot of shit along the way, and I'm just trying to help others do the same, thing in terms of growth without having to go through uh, some of the self-inflicted wounds along the way.
Yeah, man. So how did that on? Because you went to jail. You have a kind of a dark past that way. Do you want to get into kind of like how that all started and kind of where that started in your life? Like, was it always kind of a tumultuous beginning, or did it just kind of turn south? Was there like a catalyst point where it turned south?
Um, yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, there's that you know progression of youth. At the same time, I think I got a little thrown into an adult role a little early, than I would like to have for my son. Um, so from there, I took on responsibilities, and then once I did get my youthful freedom, I changed, what I was aiming for, and that didn't take long to start causing problems. Whether, I think the first time I got arrested was for spray painting, so tagging on the freeway. But I got lucky then; they didn't find the bag of meth I had on me, right? So went through a couple of years of that. Um, not, I don't even know if it was a couple of years, about a year and a half of that. But it all started, with your first couple sips, right? When you're real young, maybe 12, 13. Um, didn't really mess with anything beyond that. And then at 14, 15, it goes to weed, and then it just expands from there, especially because I was selling, you know, I played football, so all I wanted to do was afford some steroids, right? To get bigger with everybody else. So I started selling weed, never did steroids. Weed took off to shrooms, acid, you name it. But not so much drinking anymore at that point, um, or yet, actually. Um, so yeah, that was like the height of my meth addiction, and that was pretty bad. I was in rehab before 18, thinking that if I go to rehab, I don't have to go to jail. Wound up burglarizing my neighbor's house to, make some money. Um, but I guess by the grace of God, I got kicked out of rehab 10 days in, 2 days before my court date. Parents were moving out here. Um, we had some discrepancies, and they go, well, we'll drop it to this and just do 3 months. Like, all right, do that. My parents moved out to the East Coast the day after I go to jail. Um, and the last time I did meth was in jail in California. So I get out. I think I'm going to make it on my own in California for, at 18 by, doing construction for $5 an hour. And that lasted about a week. My mom was like, yeah, you got to get your ass out here. Best move, one of the better decisions I made. So that 86, the meth. And now I'm, 18 years old. I've got my shit under control. And from there, it was just weed and alcohol. So alcohol, that, meth addiction, that you're done, right? You're off to the races. But alcohol takes a long time for that physical buildup. Might be there mentally and not know it, but it takes a long time for you to feel the physical effects because especially being young, you feel like you're invincible. Um, my whole life, all I ever wanted was a family and a kid and, house with a white picket fence, Um, so I started working towards that. And along the way, as I'm progressing, started out real, simple with a, honey baked ham job, a Home Depot job. But I got into computers at the right time. I wish it was a little bit earlier, but that's all right. Um, and decided, hey, this is a way to make a career. I like computers. This is new to me. This is fun. Um, put myself through technical school, got my certifications, and was progressing just, as one should after disaster, right? Working towards those goals. But I was still a partier, right? Um, I was having a lot of fun along the way, as long as I wasn't effed up on meth. And everybody drinks and smokes weed; it's fun. But for me, it was, knowing or not knowing what I was doing and always thinking that it was my problem or somebody else's fault, right? Um, Boom, 20 years old, get my first DUI. I don't even remember which one that was or why. I think I got in an accident, pretty sure. Um, I had a Thunderbird Super Coupe. That was my first car. So, yeah, it
That's
was
a
one of
pretty
the,
dope car, man.
yeah, it was, man. It was clean too, man. Um, Doctor owned it. Got it from the used Mercedes dealership. He babied it. It only had like 67,000 miles. And was coming from a party. Yeah, so that was my first one with my Home Depot guys. But that back then, it was a baby DUI. It was driving after illegally consuming alcohol because I wasn't even able to drink then, right? And this is mid '90s Virginia. Slap on the wrist back then, and well, I make it through that, you know, fairly easy. And then like a year later, I get my first real DUI, right? And basically, this continues this pattern once every 5 years, every 2 years, 9 years, couple in one year, a couple in another year, until, you know, probably I was about to turn 40. And it was like I'd been through thousands of hours of therapy, right? ASAP. IOP, etc. Um, it was time to like get myself some real help because I had reached a point in my career and in my life where I was already divorced. I had been divorced at 27, but I got my first house at 24. So I was progressing like the normal adult would like to, right? Um, Career wise, just steadily bumping up the help desk chain, the systems administrator chain, the 30, 40, 60, 80, 100K plateau kind of thing, right? Um, so didn't have any problems, right? It's just something happening to me over and over and over and over. Um, then, you know, it was just always something holding me back. And it might not even have been a DUI, but it took a long time for me to realize that it's just when I drink that bad things happen, right? Um, so, because I had so many drunken publics as well, disturbing the peace is nothing, felonious, so to speak, or, criminal. Um, but you can only break so many relationships and laws before they're gonna get you. So at 40, I decided, you know, I'd been drinking probably by myself for like 4 years. I hadn't gotten to that point just yet where like I'm taking it to work, right? But I'm done partying because I'm tired of getting DUI, so I'm just gonna drink at home, right? You guys want to come over, cool. That sounds great, you know.
As
And
long as
then
I don't gotta operate a vehicle, I'm good.
right, right. I even kept the breathalyzer on for a couple of months after one of my DUIs because I'm like, it's just cheaper to have this for $600 a year than get a DUI. You know, you could literally pay for it for 15 years before it costs what a DUI costs nowadays, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And not have to risk hurting anybody else or anything
Right,
like that.
right. And then you know, also back then because you're like, oh man, it's $60 to get there, so I don't have to leave my car because you're constantly making these decisions back then. And then with the advent of Uber, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna Uber wherever I go if I leave, right? Give myself no chance to drive away, right? So not fixing the problem, just sidestepping it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've been there before, man. I have had my bouts with drugs and alcohol as well, man. I'm like 6 months sober right now, so I'm kind of just in the beginning
Nice.
of it all. But yeah, man. So how did you
Like the
go?
fully sober thing, um,
Sorry?
like the fully sober, like, or just not your main. Because I have a lot of friends that do the alcohol free, right, or heroin free, drug free, but like I'm okay with cannabis, like, and especially CBD, and a guy wants to go through what he's gone through, and then like I got a really good friend of mine. He's pretty much 100% sober, but he's like, I'm at a place right now where he went and did ayahuasca, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've used quite a few psychedelics in my day, both recreationally and then as well, like kind of had some spiritual I guess experiences with it as well, just kind of using them on my own and not like partying with them. And I'm not anti-weed either. I do see a lot of benefits in marijuana. I mean, I live in Canada, in Vancouver here. It's basically like the Canadian LA, like it's it's pretty common here. Most people like you'd be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't smoke weed.
Right.
But I for myself personally right now, I am just going 100% sober at this because I don't really have like a drug of choice. Like I'll use whatever's in front of me. Like
Every
that's
funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'll gobble it up. I'll just so like that was one of my biggest issues is like I would just basically use whatever was in front of me. And I was such a kind of a functioning addict in the way that like if I wasn't, partying, I wouldn't drink very often just because I didn't like the feeling of losing kind of control of myself, forgetting about what happened. Like I dealt with anger issues as well. So I was just tired of fucking getting in fights and getting knocked out and getting confused and get all of those different things, man. But
Piecing
I was
together the night before,
yeah, yeah, man. Trying to
going through your texts and
oh man.
calling
But
people, what did I do?
yeah, exactly. But I ended up leaning on weed as like a big crutch. I was smoking like at least like 10 joints a day, like from the second I wake up. I had a bong beside my bed, and like I'd be hitting the bong from the second I wake up in the morning till like literally four tokes before bed. Like that was like I was stoned all day every day for years. And that was just my baseline. So when I decided to get sober, I was at a point where I was like driving home, and I just kind of had like a mental breakdown. Like I was disassociating from like the problems in my life, and I was just kind of viewing myself like anytime I got like a heightened level of emotions, I would disassociate from myself. And I was kind of just realizing how I was just numbing myself. I would I would tell myself like if I can just kind of numb myself to the pain that I'm feeling right now and push past it and work harder and get to the next step of my life, then I won't need to use drugs all day every day. I won't need to kind of numb myself, not realizing that like I need to deal with the shit that I'm trying to numb. Like that was kind of where I was at. So I've basically told myself like I need to work like a set of 12 steps. I need to like figure out what it is exactly I was running from and trying to numb. And then if I can get like my head cleared up, like I can go back to smoking a joint here and there casually, but like I just don't want to be just high all day every single day. Like for me it was I was just using it as a crutch, and I felt like I don't want to be a man that needs a crutch. Like what kind of an example am I setting for myself, for my partner, for my future children? It just really kind of hit me this year. Like I'm 27 right now. So for me, it hit me as like, if I really want to become a man that I would be proud of being, like, this isn't it. Like just being fucking stoned all day, every day. Like
Yeah,
it's just, it wasn't for me. So yeah, for the time being, for the past 6 months, I think it's like 6.5 now, but I've been 100% sober and trying to lean into a little bit more of like journaling and kind of dealing with the pain, reading a lot more of the literature in regards to recovery and self-development that way. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now with my life, because I was so addicted to self-development for the past few years,
mhm.
but I was only working on the positive aspects. I was only working on the things that I wanted to work on, like if I could maximize my efficiency, my time management, my relationships, etc. And I never wanted to dig deep and do like kind of the deep inner work and deal with like kind of the trauma that I've dealt with, and the stuff I was trying to avoid, man. There's always the stuff that we want to work on, and then there's the stuff that we don't want to work on, and that's what I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it all comes down to escapism, right? What are we trying to escape? Um, that emotional pain has to be dealt with, and that's part of my personal development program. Like I literally deal with it every morning, every day. You know, trying to figure out, how can I be better than I was yesterday? What did I do wrong yesterday? Did I treat somebody bad? Did I, mess up my food, which doesn't happen, right? For the most part, but, but just getting that daily, grind, so to speak, that I'm choosing to do, right? To prove to myself, I'm going to do it just because I said I did it, right? And also figuring out who I'm going to be that day when things get hard, right? Because doing this every day and every morning, all the time, isn't easy. And taking it a step further, once you're in the middle of it, when you're like, I could give up on, rep 8. I got a pump going. It feels all right. It's getting a little difficult at 12. Who are you when it gets to 18, 19, 20? Right? You're like, right? So, and that's a good time also to think about what was happening the day before if something was wrong, right? Because it's an enlightened mindset that you're not thinking from usually, right? You're at a different frequency when you're thinking about those problems, or that they happen, they burst out, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think about that all the time. I think about, in my eyes, I always explain it like it's like you're not yourself. Like that's not who you are. Like I always tell myself, like when I'm journaling about, I do the same thing you do every single morning. The first thing I do is I do like a bunch of push-ups while I make my coffee. And then once my push-ups are done, I sit down and I journal. And that's before I touch my phone, before I do anything. I used to go on and put like a good morning post on Instagram, and I realized like I just get sucked in, man. I'm
Yeah.
like I like it's another form of escapism. Like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, man, like I get sucked into social media. So I was like, before I like subject my brain to that shit, I need to hit a bunch of push-ups, get a
Be
good
right.
little pump on, and then I got to sit down and journal and reflect on like the kind of the day that I had before, and then like kind of the thoughts that I had running through my brain while I do my push-ups, like while I wake up, while my body's starting to function, my blood's starting to pump, all those kind of thoughts of, anxiety of what happened the day before, what could happen today. Like I just need to get it out on paper. And then once I clear my head, I do a bit of reading. And then I'm like, okay, now I can function as an adult. Like now I could be a regular human being at this point.
Yeah. Hey, dude, everybody's got their own program and that works for them, and their their scheduling and the pieces, which way they have it, and all. But as long as people have a program and we can point them in the ways to go about that, then they can navigate it as they go, and customize it for each person. Like that's one thing I don't think a lot of people understand is like they see me getting up at 3:45 a.m. They're like, I can't do that. I'm a truck driver. Okay. So, right?
Like, what are you
44
gonna do?
hours. Where, what? All right. So you drive all night. All right. Let's figure this out for you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But there's a lot of things that go into, you know, having your daily process, but you just gotta keep trying to implement it once it's recognized, and that's a big problem as well. People don't recognize that they are exactly what they live, right? It's not the world out to get them, it's the world that you brought on you.
Yeah, 100%. And even like those things, like I call my routine my bulletproof routine. Like no matter what happens, what gets shot my way, like I've got my bulletproof vest on. Like as long as I do my routine, I'm protected. Like that's kind of how I protect my mind, my body from like whatever's going to come at me that day. If I do 275 push-ups in the morning, it doesn't really matter. Like I can get like at least a 45-minute workout in later that day, like at least a run in, at least a stretching session. Like at the very least, I've done my 250, 300 push-ups in the morning. Like that's that, you know what I mean? Like no matter what stresses come my way, I've done my journaling, and like I can do my reading, I can calm my mind, like those types of things. And my routines change too. Like that's the other thing with routines is they've
Yeah,
changed so much. Like I've had times where like I wake up and I run 5 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles. I think it's probably like 2 or 3 miles, but like
ish.
yeah, like run a little bit in the morning. I've had days where like I wake up and I start work right away and I do all these things later. Like my routine is adapted to my life and where I'm at and really what I need to work on. Like for me right now, it's more about I just want to get my blood pumping and then get whatever is in my brain down on paper and then read something good afterwards. Like I don't want to get fucking sucked into social media, going down conspiracy theories and how the government's trying to kill me. And,
Yeah,
like I want to get like a good fucking good journal, like I call it like my brain dump everything that's in my brain and then fill it with a good book. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like that's what I need. So that's like where my routine has kind of shifted recently. And I always prioritize fitness. So that's why like the push-ups come first. Like I just need to get some blood pumping first thing in the morning, man.
absolutely. I'm right there with you.
I no, I dig your shit, man. I've followed you obviously on Instagram for quite a while. Like we've kind of gone back and forth about doing this podcast and like, dude, I love your posts. Like it's always every single day when I look at your story, it's like he's hitting burpees outside once again, like always hitting burpees. Like I
Yeah,
love
man.
to see that shit, man. When did you kind of because you said like the what like you've been sober about 2 years now and
Yeah, so to go back, so I put myself into my own rehab. I talked to my company because I was with a good company who had been through a few of my things, and I said, all right, talk to my coworkers, and because I can't just drop out for 3 weeks to a month. So I made sure that it was cool with them if they could cover my own call, and I said, all right, I had seen this fancy pants rehab, because I didn't want a white walled, institutional kind of rehab that I went to when I was 18, right? I brought my dog to Florida. Like, I was smoking cigarettes and coffee the whole time. I had a steak every night. I got massages every other day by the pool.
it's like
Like,
a spa.
it was like a resort without the booze, right?
Sounds
Because I
kind of
got to
dope,
the
actually.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty fucking awesome, and it did its job. Um, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted at that time, other than to stop drinking, right? And I didn't know how to do that because there was 7-Eleven on every fucking corner, or at least I could walk there in 3 minutes, right? Um, so it got me away from alcohol for 24 days, and it gave me a shot on the way, but being down there and being away from your home and family, like, sure, I made friends with the people that were there, but they're in Ohio, Michigan, Maine, wherever, right? It's not like we could go have coffee and hit a meeting or something, but I got no aftercare for that. But it got me sober. It got me a completely different outlook on life because, at that point, like, I wasn't like trying to kill myself, but I didn't like have anything to live for. Like, I wasn't worried that I was drinking a half a gallon of vodka on a Saturday morning. Like, so what? Who cares? Obviously, I don't. Right?
Yeah, like it
I don't
wasn't
care
hurting
about myself
anybody
at all.
else.
Right? Did I wasn't getting in any trouble anymore. I wasn't like showing up late to work anymore, or I probably was, but we were, you know, I could get away with it, so to speak. Um, but I was like, I was starting to feel some my rib tingling for like a year or two underneath what the liver, right? So that would have me worried. So I was like, all right, I know what the problem is, right? I'm like, I'm not gonna try and lie to my, the GI guy or whatever. Be like, I don't know, it's just strange going on here. It's not poisoned or anything.
Maybe it's a birth defect. Like,
Yeah, yeah. But when I bend over here and there, it just tingles for 2 hours. So that was my first attempt at getting sober for myself. I had admitted that I was an alcoholic in meetings before and therapy and all that because I knew I was at some point. It took a long time for me to say that and mean it and know it, but I still took a long time to really understand it because wasn't doing the books. I was just simply showing up to meetings and all the other stuff, the IOPs that they force you to pay um, for signatures. And if I needed to stay clean, I'd stay clean, at least from weed. Uh, but and in IOP back then, the technology is what it today. All right, so I don't drink Monday through Thursday, right?
Yeah. It's like 4 out of the 7 days.
Right. Literally drinking the whole time, but composing it better. Um, so I was sober for like 8 months, and then I went on a sailboat trip in Greece and wound up. I'm happy I made it to Greece sober because I guess was a big thing. I probably would have been drunk, but in the airport on the way. But that was just 11 days of pure drinking and fun. Like there was, I don't know how else to explain it. I met my wife the very last night. Um, but that was, a huge relapse. Um, and there was some typical drunken stuff that happened. Like I lost my wallet. I had to rely on other people, but nothing bad. But I definitely felt it on the way home and didn't drink for 3 months. I promised my person I'm talking to now because she lived in Italy at the time, so we communicated for the next 3 months. And then, but I didn't drink, and then we had made plans to meet back in Italy. And of course, I drank in Italy. That's where I asked her to marry me. She came back with me, and I stayed sober for another couple months after we got back. And then she was pregnant, and slowly but surely, you know, right back to it, and hiding it worse, and just you know, causing problems when they didn't need to exist, right? Sure, was everything taken care of? Yeah, but was I taking care of my wife? No, because I'm off drinking for 3 hours. She's got nothing to do in a strange country and she's pregnant, or home with the baby, or so. Um, then the like final couple pieces were like we had bought a new house. Our boy was born. This was a couple of years ago, after we had moved. So Tyler was 2, and we buy this place, and a roommate, friend, tenant, a friend from 25 years, but he was a roommate tenant at the old place. We come here, and I had gotten on my personal development program because I had tried. At the beginning of COVID, I had told my wife, all right, I'm going to go on antabuse because this is getting out of control. I'm not going to rehab. I'm not leaving you, etc. That worked for a couple of months. And then I went on a 4-day bender. Nothing bad happened on July 4th weekend, but just enough to piss her off. And because I had figured out the antabuse wasn't working. I think it was a compound that they just was fake, like a placebo or something. And nothing like ultimately bad happened, just checked my wife off. And I had been following a couple of motivational guys on YouTube, and I hopped on one of his coaching programs and made quite a bit of change from a mental perspective, because I had gotten dad bod over the last couple of years before that. Just drinking, staying home, not knowing about my health, not caring, eating right. But that helped me not just stay sober, but have a different goal to not focus on just staying sober, right? Staying sober is just a part of the program. You got 5 other goals to hit, 7 other goals to hit every day, right? And that physical fitness and that toughness that you're building in the beginning, especially when you don't know if it's going to work. You're not sure that, you've never been there. You've never been this peak physical spot. You're not there. But you keep going. You keep going. And you show up daily. And I dropped 45 pounds in 123 days, right? And there was one small relapse in that. But that got me like, holy shit, I'm a motherfucking beast. I can fucking do this, right? And it also became my next level up because my head got a little big, right? Things were great here at the new house. I just gotten the wife you know, it was used, but it was a nice little Benz. And I got an Escalade that I'd wanted for years, right? So now I'm, crushing it, right? This is it. This is the boyhood dream that I had, right? The house, the wife, the son, the cars, the investment property, a sizable, a nice income, a sizable 401k. I literally could have just cruised through life, right? Nope.
Yeah, man. So what stopped you from that path?
Nope. Oh, yeah, yeah. Um, Relapse City. 3 weeks in December to January, after my big head. Got two drunken publics, then came home one night. I'm sorry, didn't come home one night. January 5th, it's the day before the whole U.S. Capitol shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I crushed my day because I had already been through, still relapsing, but the drunken public's nothing, right? I'm not losing my job. Nothing's bad's happening there. And I was still hitting all my stuff, right? Like crushing my macros, crushing my workouts, crushing my spiritual morning process, everything. But I still hadn't got a real connection to that spirituality. It was still me running the show, right? So, and it was obvious again to my wife and my family, and my mom was like, I had crushed my day, but I get drunk. And my mom was like, hey, we're going to go check out this. We're going to get you an assessment. And I'm like, all right. I figured I was going to detox. And alcoholics, if I'm going to detox, might as well have one last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember that. Next thing I remember, so apparently we were going to go to the assessment. They said, nope. When they saw me that drunk, they go right to detox. Apparently I get kicked out of detox 2 hours later because I'm just an asshole. And they're like, go home and sleep it off. And wife puts me in bed. Because you got to go to detox through the emergency room, right? I don't know why I said that again. Wife puts me in bed, goes back to my parents' house with my son, and takes my wallet, takes my phone, right? The only thing that I remember out of any of all of that is waking up. And I don't even remember that until 10 minutes, 15 minutes later into this story I'm about to tell you. That's what I surmised later. I wake up to my roommate and in my face, I've got a long hallway right here. I'm coming out my door. He's like got his iPhone in my face going on. You're on Facebook Live now. I'm going to expose you as a fraud. And he's bipolar. And I could tell he's bug eyed and on some shit, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what the fuck is going on right now. And he's backing down. And I must have said something to piss him off. He comes up and attacks me. I'm hammered, still. He was a wrestler. He gets me in the rear naked chokehold and goes to muscle up and choke harder. So I'm like 3 seconds from passing out or dying. And I get his thumb, crunch his thumb, and he jumps off me. I grab my gun, get him out of the house. He's running away. And I'm like, I have no idea really where he is, but I'm like, all right, yo, run back in the house. I have to have Alexa call my mom, call the cops because my phone's gone.
Shit.
My roommate was on probation in PG County. So he knows if he calls the cops first, it's on, it's a
They're
he's
coming for him.
right. So my mom is actually like calling, right? And they go, don't worry, we're already on the way. It's not the first time they've been in
Right.
my house. So they come down. I'm still in, I see them all, and I'm still in my hospital scrubs with no shirt on and non-slip socks.
What a sight to see.
Right. And they're like, yo, and I'm like, you're gonna have to be a little more specific. You see I'm here. Um, take me up to the cruiser. Are you being detained or arrested? And they're like, we're just detained right now. They're like, what happened? I'm like, I have no idea. Right. I'm lumped up, my head hurts, right? Eyes bleeding, still half drunk. They go down and talk to him, and apparently it's my fault because I made his thumb bleed. So they arrested me for malicious wounding because I made him bleed. And I'm like, I'm in the back. I'm like, are you a rookie? You see my face? Yeah. Why? Because now I'm starting to remember the story. It's wild. Like, I don't remember it until I'm in the back seat. Like, what the hell just happened? Right. Um, so that was the start of that. I get out to go straight to detox. They let me out, on bond, to go straight to detox, and then to rehab. They don't have um, they don't have a bed open for 4 days, so I get 4 days at home. But I got to maneuver my whole life to get him out of that house that night before I'm allowed to come back to my own house, right? Because it's his house too. So that was a cluster. Luckily, my boys from the West Coast had moved out. I flew out to help out, right? And I'm sure I found a way to sneak some drinks in there. But I had made sure that, my job was cool. Hey, going to detox. Cool, go ahead. So even though like this one was kind of forced but I was already planning to go anyway, I go in there with a great attitude to get sober. I work my program through the whole, and this was a real deal, like rehab. Sure, rehab is just to get you away from the substance, but it helped so much with meeting people from here, setting up meetings, helping with the aftercare, right? Shout out to Recovery Unplugged, by the way. Love you guys. But I still wasn't fucking getting it. I still was not in tune with the universe, whatever you want to call it, speaking to me and me not listening. Get out. First thing, 4 hours after getting out of rehab, I get a call. Job's like, you can't come back until we see the police report. And I'm like, heart sunk.
Fuck.
Fired. They're going to fire me, right? I know they're going to fire me. But the whole time for the next 6 weeks, because of the royal pain in the ass this whole system is, I gotta think, oh well, maybe if they were gonna fire me, they would have fired me already, or they're just covering their ass. Which way are you guys going with that? Right. So that's instant anxiety. Couple that with literally everything going wrong in the next 2 weeks. I mean, from toilet, the garage door opener, the truck, you fucking name it. And I'm trying, and it's still COVID. I'm trying to get things to replace them myself, to, fix them myself because I'm a handy guy. They're sending the wrong parts, this, that. Like, then the boy gets sick. And man, it's like, it just, I cracked. I cracked. Wife left one day to take him to the, just to get the checkup for being sick. And she wasn't gone but 2 minutes before I was drinking again. And she didn't know it. Do my IOP half drunk on Zoom. Barely remember that. But I didn't drink for like the 4 hours of my IOP and the one-on-one with my therapist, like an idiot. Just all of it. And I remember thinking on the way, it only, consequences only get worse. That's what my mentor told me. And I remember thinking that shit on the way, get done with my meetings. I make up the excuse to go to Walmart at 9:30 at night because we need something to fix the garage door. And I get the DUI coming back, literally 10 feet behind my house. I was like, I told the cop, I was like, I could literally walk in my backyard, right? We can go into all the reasons why he didn't have a right to pull me over and I could have beat the case and blah, 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 blah. But that was February 25th, 2021. And that was DUI 3, even though it was technically like my ninth. It was DUI 3 and 10 this time. And there was no getting, around it anymore. But at this point, like I knew I was going to get fired. Like I gave it all up. I surrendered basically. Like I wasn't trying to get out of jail that time, because I got to save my job and, I can go back to work on Monday or anything, right? This is, I need to get out and take care of my family so that I can prepare to take care of my family while I do whatever's coming up, right? Because time's coming, right? Whether that's 90 days minimum or 5 years maximum. I got some time coming and I got to prepare for that. So it was Chaplain Vic. He comes, drops off my brand new Bible in my cell. And that first page, I signed my name and I was like, because I went through my self-proclaimed atheist years. I think I always knew something and believed early on when I was young. But I went through those years of, science. Science says it ain't possible.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think everybody goes through a phase like that. Some people just don't get out.
Right.
It's the doubting years, man.
Yeah, those were long ones too.
I know it started for me when I was a kid. I was like, I think it was like when my grandpa died. I was like, man, if there's a God, why would he have done this to me? Like, that's what I remember thinking as a kid. And I remember asking my dad that question. I don't even remember what he said, but I remember like thinking to myself, like, man, why do people that I love die? Like, how could this happen? Like I was just so stunned. It was the first time I dealt with like a loss like that. And I was like, how could there be a God if this is what's happening? Like, how could this happen? And yeah, dude, I just started kind of, like I said, like I just started kind of a spiritual journey this year and started going trying to understand, who my higher power is. It's funny, man. It started because I was like starting to buy into like the simulation theory idea like a couple years back. Back when I was in my stoner days and watching quote unquote documentaries on YouTube. And then I was like, this is basically just a form of God, because if you think this is a simulation, there's got to be
Right,
a creator. If you're going to recognize a creator, you're basically believing in God to some
right,
degree. Like,
right. Plugged into the matrix, whether you like it or not.
yeah, yeah. So what happens next?
So, like, I'm totally not caring about me at this point. And I literally go, all right, Jesus, God, if you exist, you know, this isn't please God let me stop puking my guts out because I drank all night. Please God get me out of this. I swear I'll never drink again. Or please God let me win $1 million. This is nothing like that, right? And I'm like, if you think I'm a menace to society and belong in jail, fine. If not, if you think it's best if I, come out and figure it all out and do whatever I can for my family, give me bail. Because they don't give you bail when you're me. They straight up, you can be a murderer and get a $2 million bill. You're a drunk driver like me, you don't get bail. You got to fight for it. So, uh, a lawyer petitions the court for, a bail hearing because, that's 2 or 3, 4 days later, depending on if it's the weekend or whatnot. Just to say, hey, these are the conditions of your bail. And, I made promises to that God that I had heard about when I was a kid, went through my, disbelief years, and I have a reason to believe, and now I believe it. And every day that I have has been a good day. So, I had to go, I went 5 months sober before I had to go to jail because they were good lawyers and, they see effort, even despite just the most tainted past with alcohol that you could probably find on paper. Right. Um, you know, they gave me the maximum, but they only made me do the minimum. Right. So I've got time over my head and I have to, you know, ask for permission to leave the state and stuff like that. But I have zero worries because I just believe everything is going to work out because everything worked out and everything was fine. And I knew how to be grateful for the little things that I had, which was very, very little, but me and my thoughts for 90 days, right? Because I had already started with my, actually including a Bible verse or the Lord prayer, AA prayer every day since I got out, right? So constant contact, constant connection with, a being better than me. So doing that, it you just come out so much more grateful on the other end, because I'm sure I could have gotten away with drinking up until I went into jail, but having that 5 months, going through jail sober, you know, paying my fucking penance, because it's a fucking bitch, right? What? Even if it was just county, like it's Fairfax County. I don't know if you know about them. It's Richie rich money out here, but the jail is just a train wreck of administration, you name it. But I'm telling you that the miracles that happen the in the interim, like just it's proof. Like since since we realized we could get a deal for the 90 days, we had planned on going to Romania, but obviously I couldn't do that. So only my wife and son would. This was timed at the right time. They were literally going the day after that I was supposed to go to jail. So that's 45 days easy on them. He's no notice, and my son probably won't remember anyway, right? Um, but it's 45 days that she doesn't have to do everything by herself or rely on other people close for help, etc. They're on vacation, right? Before they know it, half the time is done. Um, we had the investment property. A good deal came our way, offloaded it instead of having it, rented out. Um, gave us, the means to get through all of that. And even to this day, like I don't have a technical real job like going back to the IT world because that's a little more difficult now, right? Even if I wanted to, like my name is cut in half, right? The algorithm itself goes, oh, felony. They don't even see your resume, right? And that's a decision I knew I would make because I trusted myself and I trusted the man above to take care of me no matter what, take care of us. Like I've got a lot of really cool things that I wanted in life, right? I got it, but I don't need any of it. I need a couple of things. We will, we will make it. Period.
I love that, man.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
I love it, man. I got a buddy that always says he's like, man, everything's always working out for me. And they like always says that every single
Yeah.
time I talk to him. And I've started to adapt that. Like I started to say that to myself, like kind of like a personal mantra. Like everything is always working out for me. Because it is like every day you wake up and that's proof in and of itself. Like it's
Boom.
like, oh, I woke up. I
That's
got a
enough for
fucking
me.
another day. Yeah, I got another day. There's so as this whole thing starts, like you've kind of started because I saw on your Instagram like 2 years ago you posted like a picture of what you looked like 2 years ago, and it's completely different. Like it's in contrast completely to what you look like now. Like now you're ripped, you're working out every single day. You're an inspiration to a lot of people on Instagram and the people that follow you in life. Like how did that transformation start? So you get out of jail and you have like what you looked like back then 2 years ago. How did that transformation start, like getting back
So
in shape?
so I started this in 2020. So the 45-day thing, I stayed that same shredded all the way up to jail. I knew I wanted to get bigger. I still want to get bigger, right? More mass. Because I can get we know I can get shredded, stay shredded. I want to get more mass. So you have to go through a reverse to do that. And I figure what better time than while in jail? Um, um, it was not easy the first couple of weeks because you're in quarantine and you don't get hardly anything to eat. Um, but once I got to general population, I had money now because I sold the house at the top, right? So paying bills, killing all of our credit, you know, like I was saying, man, things were working out. It all aligned up, right? So I got money and I had a lot of commissary. So sticking with what I knew, which was not a whole lot about the reverse, but I knew if I just kept working out and just kept eating, I'd put on weight. So I came out actually at like 21. Because I went in, yeah, I came out about 22 pounds heavier than my first cut. Um, I
Damn.
got sick, yeah, I got sick at the last week. I got sick in jail. That crushed me for like another week too. After I got out, I kept to my wake up time for the most part once I set it again. But I didn't get back into working out, and I didn't get back into like completely eating right because I was just getting back to eating normal food, which was healthy enough for me, right? Um, so Jan 1, I just start, I make it a full on conscious decision to just do this for a year, post this for a year, start all of these things for the year. We started out with a challenge from a friend of mine, which was really cool. I'm glad he did that from the recovery community. But I had actually been coaching before I fucked up and went to jail. I had a couple of friends, but knowing that I was going to come out with a felony, I knew I had to start my own business. I started some of the, you know, groundwork before I went to jail, and I came out, and um, I've had it going since. I didn't have um, too many clients for the first few months, and then having my hands in so many different things last year. It's not just um, this business or this business. It's getting the work here, the work here, the work there. Do this, learn this, learn. I've learned. It's beyond ridiculous how much I've learned in terms of software processes, blockchain, crypto, um, you know, other means to make some money without having a real job, right? But it took me a while to get fully focused on the one thing, and I think basically I wanted to go into this year um, hitting the ground running. So I got it. I got the website up, at least the front end, the launch, the sales site, and the back end's been up for a while. Got that going a couple of months ago, and now it's about marketing and talking to people and seeing how I can help. Right. So um, it's cool. It's a lot of work, but it's what I get to do. It's not even work, right? It's like I get to wake up and just live this beautiful day, the same day, every day, and things are gonna work out. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's such a blessing that way. I tend to have like a similar outlook on life. Like every single time I'm writing in my journal, like I always write down like one of the last things to write is like I'm grateful for this day. Like I'm grateful that I get another chance. Like kind of reflecting back on a lot of the things that I've been through, there's times where like I really fucked up and like somehow I slipped through the cracks, and like I've had to deal with repercussions in my life, but I'm blessed that they weren't as heavy as like what they should have been in my eyes. And I'm like, man, there's a reason that I slipped through the cracks, that I got like as lucky as I got. Like as much as I want to look at my life and say, man, I got fucked over here, I got dealt a bad handed cards in this area of my life. Like there's a lot of times where I've been like way too lucky, where like it didn't click for me. Like I didn't realize how blessed I was. And now it's like you better be grateful for those moments, because life could have been a whole lot fucking worse for you.
Man, gratitude is something I never ever even thought about until I realized just how grateful I am for everything, the smallest of things now. Like I'm not even sure gratitude was in my vocabulary, you know, 5 years ago. Like even some of the good things that had happened over my life, like I can't be like, oh, well, I'm grateful for that or grateful for you. I just wasn't. I was so selfish, right? Literally everything was about me, 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 me. Even the things that I would do and that were nice and kind, still me. It was still about me.
Yeah, yeah. One of those moments where you kind of do something for somebody because this person might feel obligated to do something for me now. Like, I might get some positive kickback for it.
Right. And in a different kind of way, it still is. It still is. Like I love helping people. It does make me feel good. It does keep me in a different, as long as I'm not thinking about me, I'm good. Right. But that is what I need. So I am being selfish in by doing that. And you see what I mean? That kind of catch 22 thing. And that's okay. That kind of way, it's all right. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because yeah, I like feeling good. It's selfish of me to like to feel good, but I feel good when somebody, you know, messages me, hey, appreciate you, or buys my program, right? And you see these transformations and watching people grow and get better is far more satisfying than the opposite is depressing.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things I was actually going to ask you about, and this is probably like a perfect time to talk about it, is I noticed that on your wall, like is it like a home gym that you work out at a lot of the
Yeah,
time? Like
yeah, that's my garage. That's half my garage.
I saw on the wall, it says, it's not about you. I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you about that. What's that all about? I like that message.
yeah, it's all the nothing is about me anymore. I literally have had my fulfillment of everything that I want, everything that I could have, everything that I have and deserve, I've got. I'm grateful for. Literally anything else I do, it's not about me. It's about me being the best person for him, right? My parents were great parents. They lacked lots of areas that I needed to make me happier or whatever my trauma is. We all have trauma with our parents. I don't care how good of a life you had. You know, you're a kid. Kids being a kid is traumatic, period. And you're gonna resent your parents in some form or fashion. And I never really did it with my parents. I don't think I ever blamed them or anything. I think I put it on my biological father for a long time. Um, but not them. And I still don't because they didn't know what they needed to know. They were young when they had me, right? They were at their own growing process and etc. But I see what I needed now, right, from when I was a kid to not hopefully go through all that shit for my son. So I gotta be that person, right? I I'm gonna give him everything he wants, just like I didn't have, but I'm also going to make him earn it. But I'm also going to be what he needs and be able to flow with that at any point in time. And try to, you know, anything he asks, anything he wants, info. I'll show him how. Right? You can tell your kids all, till you're blue in the fucking face. My parents told me a whole bunch of shit. I didn't listen because they weren't doing it. Right? So, kids aren't going to listen to you. They're going to follow you. So if want to raise a good person, I got to be a good person, somebody
I
I respect.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with that, man. Like I think that like and that's what I was trying to say earlier as well with like, in terms of like becoming like getting a little bit, not even just getting sober, but like you said, like getting sober is one part of it, but it's like you got to do the deep inner work. And
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking is like, if I want to like, because my goals are aligned like pretty similar to yours. Like I want to have I want to have a house, I want to have a wife, I want to have children, I want to be successful, I want to be able to provide everything that I need to provide. But if I'm kind of walking around as this shell of a man, like kind of never fulfilled, not feeling happy, always acting like in a self-centered manner, like what example am I setting? I can't raise a good person if I'm not a good person. Like if I'm not happy with who I am, I'm not feeling fulfilled, then how am I going to live a life where I can raise somebody that's going to feel fulfilled
Yeah.
unless I can actually achieve it myself? I resonate a lot with that message, man. And when I saw that written on your wall, I was like, that's really fucking cool, man. Um, the other thing I was gonna say is do you think and I don't know where your head is at because obviously like there's kind of a self accountability aspect to this as well because we all do have our own choices, but do you think that society kind of normalizes the consumption of alcohol and drugs? Like do you think that it kind of creates the right circumstances for alcoholism and drug addiction to take place? Like because I feel like growing up I never, and maybe it's just because I was a kid, but I never really heard about like how drug and addiction problem and alcohol abuse, like I feel like it's grown so much in the last 20 years. And I feel like especially in Vancouver, in places in California, I don't know where if it's like this where you are, but I feel like parts of the city are completely getting consumed by homelessness and drug addiction. And it feels like to me that society almost like normalizes these things and pushes these things from like TV commercials to how we're taught how to spend our spare time. Um, it's like,
I think I, I think we hear about it a lot more because of the speed of the internet. I do think um, society does have a certain brand pushing um, way about itself, right? I know. I mean, you can't in the U.S. There's no cigarettes commercials. There haven't been for years,
yeah, we're the same here in Canada. You
right?
can't advertise
But
cigarettes.
every other commercial is for some booze, or 70% of marketing is pharmaceutical,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
healthcare.
It's
Seventy
crazy.
percent of every dollar, 70 cents of every dollar spent in marketing in the U.S. is by pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Isn't that
madness, man.
amazing? Like, um,
The sad thing, sorry, I'm gonna just
I
interject.
think the biggest problem with the society, get the commercials out of it. Let's say none of the commercials, but just what you see on TV or social media, it's highly accepted. Booze is right, but I think their biggest problem, social media, society, his biggest thing is they're personifying that what you got isn't good enough because everybody's an Instagram. Everybody has a podcast. Everybody has a voice on Twitter. Everybody's got some nice new shit. So everybody's got a big house, right? Look at, it's cool to be a single baby mama, right? It's it's confusing a lot of people as well, right? We know about where the confusion lies in a lot of things, and it's pushing this narrative that you're not good enough. You got to strive to be somebody else, somebody better, because you know now that you're locked in your house, nobody can see you. You don't go anywhere. for at least the last few years, right? It's just keeping people inside, not, growing because they don't have to go anywhere, but the only things that they see are the things that the algorithm shows you and that you like, and what your friends like. And it's, I imagine it's a major insecurity. It leads to even more consumption the last few years. But yeah, especially at least from my town. I mean, that's been one of my. It's the problem. I'm not the problem. It was the problem. This is Washington D.C. This is the capital of the nation. There's literally something, some event somewhere you can do every single night of the week. Right? It's a networking town. Events. Just go meet the congressman down in the city. These little backdoor deal pubs and stuff. That's just the way this town operates. And you can get sucked into that too. It's like, you know, everything is a drinking function because people don't know how to be themselves around here because a lot of these people are shitholes. They're shitheads. They don't like themselves because they do shitty shit and they don't want to. And it's all about making a buck or, being a socialite around here too.
Yeah, I feel like with social media and with the TV commercials, or ads for medication, ads for alcohol, ads for everything like that, like it's kind of like this idea is portrayed like, do you not feel good 100% of the time? Well,
Right.
you can have this and it'll make you feel good 100% of the time. And
Oh,
like, it's like, no, we're humans. Like, we're not supposed to feel good 100% of the time. And
right.
when you don't feel good, like, you're supposed to figure out why that is and start to dig deep and like try and get to the root of the problem, not try and mask it with a medication, not try and mask it with some social lubrication from alcohol, not try and like just feel good 100% of the time. Like that's not what we're supposed to be. And I feel like that's where you see the commercials, like it's funny too, because like it's illegal for pharmaceutical companies to advertise in Canada. So we don't get those commercials unless like we're watching like American stations, then we'll still see them. But like we still have like everything, like all of our media is sponsored by Pfizer, sponsored by this like company, sponsored by, the news is brought to you by Pfizer, this radio station is brought to you by Pfizer, everything, right? And there's always like kind of conversations in the media, like it's just because it's illegal to have the advertisements doesn't mean the conversations don't happen. And man, it's like there's still always the message of like, are you not feeling good 100% of the time? Fix it with this.
I mean,
Like,
they literally almost give you something just because they make you think about it. They're like, oh, do you ever have a little small headache? Oh, do you suffer from a little bit of joint aches and stuff? Well, that could be some shit you never heard of. But here's something that'll fix it. But the side effects are all of the shit you're trying to get rid of, plus explosive diarrhea. Like, what the fuck? Like, they literally plant ideas in your head to make you think that you got something so that you can go to the doctor and say, I want this. Like, I've got we can go in probably for hours about big pharma and the shit that they've caused the last 23 to 5 years that I can remember and seen. You know,
no,
it's just
the overlying idea that I view when I look at that, because trust me, I can cover this too in tinfoil, man. Like I can get my tinfoil hat on, but I and maybe that's the next conversation we have is could go down that road. But the overlying idea I feel like is like it forces us to try and look for like an external solution for like an internal problem. And I
Yeah,
think that that's the biggest
absolutely.
struggle with it.
That's pretty much the whole crux of life, actually. Like, look, we're humans. We want that dopamine hit, right? And we're taught and learn that, just by living, that a bunch of external shit hits the nail on the head and it works, right? It's unlearning that it's learning that one, it's in use, that when you don't even know about it, because the whole growing up fucking part of life, right? And then, not that it's in use, but it's in use in everything in life. That's what your body is just doing. And then realizing this isn't working. All of these things, and it took me 25, 30 years, all these external things that were the solution, you know, aren't isn't really the problem. Then the realization that we can fix it all inside, not just fix it all inside, but get that exact hit that we're looking for from the work.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that for sure, man. I I know you got a lot of shit to do, and I gotta let you go pretty quick
Yeah,
here, but
man.
I just wanted to ask, like, kind of for anybody that's listening to this, that maybe it's their first time listening to you, um, what kind of advice would you have for someone that's kind of sitting in the shoes that you were sitting in, like maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where they just kind of keep like hitting a wall. They feel themselves stuck in this mindset of like, fuck, the world's out to get me. They just maybe they've just fucked up and they're facing kind of a similar situation where you were at, where it's like, I could be looking at jail time, I could be looking at, my wife leaving me, I could be looking at any type of repercussion like that. Like, what kind of advice or statement could you give to somebody like that?
Well, you gotta, like I said, like my thing said, it's not about you. It's not at that point. It's not about them. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and the sooner they realize that, they can then start working to better themselves, heal themselves, go through what they have to go through. Because all the shit that they want in real life that they're trying to supplement or escape from is going to happen on the other side of all that work that they don't want to do. Right. So the sooner you can realize and give it a purpose outside of yourself is when you tend to stick to it a little bit more. So seek outside of yourself, right, to build yourself, right? Who do you want to be? I mean, if you want to be that dickhead that keeps getting in trouble, if you want to be that person that can't stop using substances or can't stop escaping your own life with food or porn or whatever your fucking problem is, everybody's had these problems before. You want out of them, there's a way. And reach out for help. And if you're going through a fuck up right now, keep going. Try to do it sober. It's you got to feel that pain so that you realize that's something you don't want to do again, right?
I love that message. Your Instagram's davidjames.fit, right?
Yep. DavidJames.fit. I post a little bit on Twitter too at DavidJames1, ONE. Getting my YouTube up, so I won't really, that's David James 1 too, 1 as well. But I don't really have much up there yet. But if you wanted to give it a follow, I'll throw some random shit up there every once in a while. I haven't figured out which way I want to go with it, or do I just vomit?
Just throw it all up, man.
Throw it all.
I love that, man. Well, like I said, man, maybe I didn't say it yet, but I'm very thankful for your time, man. I appreciate you coming
Thank
on
you
here and
for
telling
having
your
me, man.
story.
Yeah, I
Uh,
appreciate it.
I think a lot of people can listen to this and relate to a lot of it. Maybe some of it they'll be like, "That's a pretty big horror story," and they don't want their lives to go that way. But
Right.
I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from your story, man. I appreciate you telling me about it. It's you got an open invitation on this podcast. You can come on and
Awesome.
chat anytime. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, man. For anyone
I appreciate
that's
you.
listening.
You have a good weekend, brother.
You as well, man. For anybody listening, go and follow David. Check him out because he's always got some good inspiration, whether it's for mental health or physical health, self development stuff. If you like this podcast, you'll like his page as well. So thank you so much.
DavidJamesFit.com if you want to get on the program as well, because that launched that. I come in 3, 6, and a year terms. Um, it's not just for people that are overweight, right? Like this is a mindset thing, you know. If you got
100%,
a
man.
couple pounds to lose, it'll definitely do the trick.
I love it, man. I love that. Plug your shit, man, because people need to hear it, man.
Got to hear it. If I don't plug it, nobody else is.
Exactly. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. You have a good weekend, man. Thank you for your time.
Brother.
Much love.
Much love, bro.